Hi, Oscar. It's so great to be here in your studio. An incredible 14 years since I first did a studio visit with you back in 2012, and ended up inviting you to have a solo show at South London Gallery, which happened in 2013.
Yeah, I mean, that I think, first it was my first institutional show.
Yeah, so you had this equator line, and the show was called, if I was to draw a line, it would be 400
Yeah, so
kilometers from here.
Exactly. If I was to draw a line, and I remember, this is really odd because I remember being in Colombia on a phone call to you, and we were planning formalities of the show. You asked me for a title, and I said, if I was to draw a line, this journey started 400 kilometers north of the equator, which is alluding to a kind of biographical, history, alluding to Colombia, alluding to the equator line as a kind of anchor. So I propose the equator to be, a starting point for my practice that can then take me north or south, east or west, and I think that's also where frequencies begins, as a project.
And it's fantastic that here we are so many years later, and once again you're so generously raising money for South London Gallery, having made this really beautiful print with LITO editions. Can you say something about, because it's based on a painting from that period?
Yeah, my thesis at the Royal College was about this collapse of funding that at the time, 20 years ago, was very much an American model, and how the UK was having to respond to this collapse of funding from the Arts Council. So I've always been aware of the difficulty that institutions face in sustaining their program, in having to keep culture alive, and that was so crucial to my own education here in London. And then as far as the paintings are concerned, I think a word like mango or tamales or burrito, to be able to, through food, be able to reconnect some roots that we had obviously left behind, gave us a tremendous amount of oxygen as people. You could say oxygen, but you could also say resistance, right? We were fortunate to have each other, to be able to count on, the simplicities of, my auntie being able to find ingredients to make tamales here in London. And I think a word like tamales or burrito or maíz, which means corn, I own those words in relation to that history that I was living with my family. But I also knew the importance of making sure that the painting offered an open-ended meaning and a point of entry for whomever else was reading it, as a kind of technical, formal gesture. This kind of relief or this kind of scanned surface, it's interesting because it was also interesting on the ground, like this idea of dirt, the ground as this kind of really textured aspect, almost like a wall. They were called drawings off the wall, as in like you're kind of graffitiing mango, like in a street or something. So that there is this kind of idea of the relief, that I found.
And it's amazing the technique that LITO have used to make this print, because it looks like a painting and it's actually has a three-dimensional quality to it, and it's replicated the brush strokes literally.
No, precisely, because that's where I find it interesting. Otherwise I would have done it.
And are you happy about this print, how it's turned out?
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's phenomenal what these guys have done with that technology.
No, it's really wonderful, and we're so grateful at South London Gallery that you've done this. So generous of you to raise money for us. Why do you want to support South London Gallery?
Yeah, I think as much as I'm indebted to that show 14 years ago. I think I'm also encouraged to do this project with the South London Gallery because it's celebrating the 135th anniversary of its existence. So it's really also another profound excuse to support the institution.
Yeah, well, we're so grateful to you, Oscar. Really, thank you. And it is a fantastic addition